I'm not most men, sir. I don't quit.
What's the difference?
Well, we ride horses and they ride their cousins.
Mrs. Chris Kyle.
The story begins amid the war in Iraq, high above the streets. A lone U.S. Navy SEAL named Chris Kyle lies hidden on a rooftop with his sniper rifle steady in his hands. The noise around him is chaos. Distant explosions, rumble, gunfire echoes off the walls, and dust swirls through the air. Through his scope, Chris spots a woman walking with a small boy. In her hand is something large and metallic, a grenade. She moves toward a group of Marines on patrol. Chris takes aim, but doubt hits him like a wave. Is this woman really hostile? Could that little boy be used to attack the soldiers? If he shoots and she's innocent, he'll live with that guilt forever. If he hesitates and she detonates the explosive, his men could die instantly. It's an impossible choice, one he must make in a heartbeat. His finger tightens on the trigger, and before the decision comes, the story flashes back in time. We see Chris as a child in small-town Texas, growing up with his younger brother under a tough, no-sense father. Their dad teaches them a hard truth about life. The world has three kinds of people: sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs. Sheep are the defenseless. Wolves prey on them, and sheepdogs stand between them,
And if ever darkened their doorstep, they wouldn't know how to protect themselves.
ready to protect the weak, even if it means dying in the process. That lesson would shape Chris for the rest of his life. Years later, Chris grows into a rugged young cowboy, spending his days riding horses and competing in rodeos. Then one day, while watching the news, he sees horrifying footage: terrorist attacks on American embassies across Europe,
set to go off at the U.S. embassies,
leaving innocent people dead. Something inside him shifts. He feels a calling to serve, to defend those who cannot defend themselves. So he enlists in the U.S. Navy, determined to become part of the elite SEALs. The training that follows is brutal beyond measure. Recruits are pushed to the breaking point: endless drills, freezing waters, exhaustion that blurs the line between strength and survival. Yet Chris refuses to quit. Through grit and determination, he completes the course and earns his place. Later, he's chosen to specialize as a sniper, mastering precision, endurance, and focus. It's a lonely skill. One mistake means death for his brothers on the ground. After months of grueling training, Chris officially becomes a Navy SEAL. One night, while relaxing at a bar, he meets Taya, a strong-willed woman who instantly notices something different about him. He isn't loud or boastful like most men she meets. He carries quiet confidence and sincerity. They begin seeing each other, and slowly their connection deepens into love. Then tragedy strikes the nation, the September 11th attacks.
It's coming out of the north side there. And then
Hijacked planes crash into the World Trade Center, killing thousands. Watching the destruction, Chris feels fury and heartbreak. Soon afterward, he marries Taya, and before long, orders come through: his SEAL unit will deploy to Iraq. The story cuts back to the rooftop, the woman and child still in his scope. The woman passes the grenade to her son and sends him toward the soldiers. Chris has no choice. He fires once the boy drops. The mother grabs the grenade and charges forward. Chris fires again. Silence follows. On his very first day of combat, he's killed a woman and a child, not out of malice, but out of duty. The weight of it crushes him. A teammate tries to comfort him, reminding him that his actions saved the lives of many Marines. But no reassurance can erase what he's seen. In the months that follow, the reality of the Iraq War becomes even clearer. Insurgents hide inside homes, using civilians as shields. Soldiers have no choice but to clear houses one by one, knowing every door could be trapped. Snipers like Chris are their lifeline. From high vantage points, they cover their units, scanning every rooftop, every window, ready to eliminate threats before they strike dot. Chris quickly proves himself unmatched. His aim is perfect, his instincts razor sharp. Within seconds, he can tell who's dangerous and who's not. Every decision saves lives. Among the troops, his name spreads quickly. They start calling him the Legend.
It's been said that the legend here can kill 100.
But while the soldiers celebrate him, each kill weighs heavier on his heart. He never talks about it with Taya. She's pregnant, and he wants to protect her from his demons. Soon, the team receives critical intelligence about a man named Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, the ruthless leader of al-Qaeda in Iraq and a close associate of Osama bin Laden. His goal is to spread terror across the country. The American command vows to hunt him down at any cost. They learn about one of his lieutenants, a man known as the Butcher, infamous for killing innocents and enforcing Zarqawi's orders through terror during a raid. Chris and his team question a local sheik suspected of aiding the terrorists. The man trembles as he speaks. He admits he knows of the Butcher, but is terrified the warlord once cut off the hand of a woman in his own family. He fears the same fate if he talks. Chris promises the man protection for himself and his loved ones. After hesitating, the sheik gives them a name, Amir Khalif Fanuz, also known as the Butcher. In exchange, he begs for American protection. The next morning, Chris's unit heads to the sheik's neighborhood to gather more intel. But before they even reach the house, a single bullet rips through the air. The driver is killed instantly. If you have enjoyed the video, consider subscribing as it helps us grow and make more content you like. The shot came from Mustafa, a notorious enemy sniper. Once an Olympic sharpshooter, Mustafa now fights for the insurgency, and his accuracy is almost superhuman. He can kill from impossible distances, always changing position before anyone can locate him. Pinned down, Chris and his men can only watch as the Butcher arrives at the sheik's home. Through his rifle scope, Chris witnesses a nightmare. The Butcher captures the sheik's young son and kills him using a drill. Screams echo through the narrow streets. Chris tries to take the shot, but Mustafa's covering fire keeps him locked in place. Moments later, the Butcher and Mustafa vanish. It's a devastating loss. The mission fails, and the team is ordered back to base. After months in combat, Chris is granted leave. He returns home to Taya, who is now heavily pregnant. She's overjoyed to see him, but he's distant, withdrawn. Though his body is home, his mind is still on the battlefield. When their son is born, Taya's joy is unmatched, but Chris barely reacts. He spends hours watching news reports about Iraq, anxious for the soldiers still fighting. Taya begins to sense the man she married is slipping away, emotionally trapped in a war that refuses to end. Soon, Chris is deployed again. By now, Zarqawi's forces have placed a $180,000 bounty on his head, dead or alive. But he's unfazed. He's promoted to lead his team, now tasked with capturing the Butcher. Acting on a new lead, they storm a suspect's home. At first, everything looks normal, even friendly. The host insists they share a meal. But Chris's trained eyes catch something unusual, a swollen red mark on the man's elbow. The telltale sign of a sniper who spends hours resting on the same spot. Chris's instincts flare. He orders a search. Weapons are discovered hidden under the floorboards. Cornered, the man confesses. The Butcher is nearby and offers to guide them in exchange for his life. Chris agrees. They raid the location. Gunfire erupts instantly. The Butcher tries to escape through a hidden tunnel. From across the street, Chris spots him climbing into a vehicle. He squeezes the trigger, the bullet hits the car, and it explodes. The Butcher is dead. For Chris and his men, it's a hard-won victory. Back home again, Taya gives birth to their second child, a daughter. But even with his family growing, the distance remains. Chris's eyes still wander to war footage. His mind can't rest. Taya pleads with him to be present, to let go. But he can't. His spirit is still overseas. By the time of his third tour, the conflict has worsened. Mustafa, enraged over the Butcher's death, vows revenge. During a surprise assault, one of Chris's closest friends, Biggles, is severely wounded. Later, during another operation, the unit walks into a deadly ambush. Another friend, Mark Lee, is killed. At his memorial, Mark's mother reads his final letter, filled with thoughts about purpose and peace. The room falls silent. Chris blames himself entirely. He promises he'll kill Mustafa no matter what. Tragedy strikes again soon after. Biggles, still recovering, dies during surgery. The grief consumes Chris. With two of his closest brothers gone, the need for revenge becomes an obsession. Meanwhile, the US military begins constructing a massive barrier to reduce terrorist attacks. Mustafa begins targeting the soldiers building the wall from extreme distance, taking them out one by one. To stop him, Chris leads a small sniper team deep into enemy territory. They climb to the top of a tall building, waiting for the chance to end it. But a fierce sandstorm looms, and the winds make shooting nearly impossible. Then Mustafa fires. His bullet strikes a soldier on the wall. Chris locates the glint of his scope far across the city. The range is staggering. Almost 1,920 meters, 2 kilometers in a storm. A shot this long is nearly hopeless. But Chris knows it's now or never. If he misses, the entire team is exposed. He steadies his breath, both eyes open, adjusts for wind, and fires. A long second passes. Then, through the scope, he sees Mustafa collapse. The kill is clean. Chris has avenged his friends, but the echo of the rifle gives away their position. Within minutes, gunfire erupts from every direction. The insurgents swarm the area, trying to trap the Americans. Chris radios for air support, but the sandstorm grows too thick for helicopters to see the target. Bullets whip through the dust. Visibility drops to 0. Using the chaos as cover, Chris and his men slip away, barely making it out alive. Back in the United States, Chris finally retires from active duty, but the war stays inside him. He sits at home staring at a blank television screen. Every sound feels like gunfire. He jumps at shadows. Once, he even mistakes his own dog for an intruder and nearly shoots it. Taya, terrified, begs him to seek help. A psychiatrist meets with him and quickly recognizes the signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. Chris admits he can't stop thinking about the soldiers he couldn't save. The guilt eats at him. The doctor offers a path forward: help others like himself. Work with veterans who are struggling to adjust, who need someone who understands. Taking the advice, Chris begins spending time with injured servicemen. He visits hospitals, listens to their stories, takes them shooting, teaches them focus and calm.
Make sure you keep both eyes open. Let that trigger surprise you.
Slowly, he starts healing too. He laughs again. He plays with his kids. Taya sees her husband returning piece by piece. Then, one tragic afternoon, Chris goes to a shooting range with another veteran named Eddie Ray Ruth, who is also battling PTSD. No one could have predicted what happens next. Ruth, in a delusional moment, turns on Chris and his friend and shoots them both. The news spreads across the country. The man who saved countless lives overseas dies at home, killed by one of the very people he was trying to help. The loss stuns the nation. Days later, tens of thousands gather to pay their respects. Highways are lined with flags. Veterans and civilians stand side by side, saluting as the procession passes. Chris Kyle is remembered not just as a sniper, but as a protector, a man who lived and died by the same code. His father taught him as a boy. He was the sheepdog who stood guard over others, the soldier who carried the weight so his brothers could live, the husband and father who gave everything for the people he loved. That is the legacy of Chris Kyle, the American sniper.